Happy Friday, 8th graders. Today is our last day that's devoted totally to research as you're researching information. Next week, Monday, we start writing our documentary scripts and getting everything ready to go. So today, we want to look at one more thing in terms of making sure that the source that you're getting your information from is reliable and valid and credible, something that we can trust. We want to make sure that the information that we're putting out there, especially since we're putting it in a documentary, is really trustworthy. We don't want to be putting information into our documentaries that is not trustworthy. So today's title is Investigating Authorship and Uncovering Agendas. And our learning target says, I can investigate the authors of the sources I've used to make sure that the authors can be trusted. Because really, our goal is to make sure that everything we put in that documentary is something that we can stand behind as a documentary filmmaker, as it's a valid point. And this stuff is really true. Now, this skill, yeah, we're using it today for our documentary, but this is one of those life skills that's really important. I'm thinking back to the spring. And remember at the very beginning of the pandemic, when science was figuring out what was going on, there were a lot of things being spread, like really like wildfire across social media that were lies. Got everybody really, really mad, but they were lies. And maybe it didn't happen to you guys because maybe Snapchat and TikTok do not have those things. But in old people's social media, over in Facebook, going like wildfire, right? And I found myself teaching this lesson to my Facebook friends saying, okay, here's how you know if it's true or not. This is what you need to do. All right. So we want to make sure that all the information that we put into our documentary is true too. And I will tell you that when Mr. Hepp and I were making the text sets, we went through this process. There were several where I was like, is this true or not? And I went through this process, and some of them I put on because, yep, green light, it worked. And some of them I didn't because there were some red flags and I wasn't sure if it was right or not. So our teaching point says researchers not only learn more about content, they learn about the authors, and they try to figure out what's the author's agenda, and they consider the language, content, and representation. So all those things we've been studying so far, plus a little bit more. Now I want to start this out with a video. Now this video is one of those videos that would really makes you mad. And so when you watch it, and when you watch any videos like this, where if they get you really, really fired up and mad, that's a little red flag to say maybe we should check to see, is this a valid source? So we're going to watch this together just to the minute and 30 mark because that's really all we need to do. And this is a story about some people who got arrested for exercising their freedom of speech on the Kellogg Community College campus.
This is the story of an American college student, Michelle, and her two pals, Nathan and Isaac. At first glance, Michelle, Nathan, and Isaac seem like ordinary people. They work hard, they study, and they hang out with their friends.
Oh, I got to move myself here. Now, do you notice some connotation here? Look at, these guys are really good. Don't they all look perfect? They're working, they're studying, they're having fun. So the language here is saying that they are really pretty good. I'm sorry about this stuff on the side, guys. I have no control over what pops up here, but look at, there's some connotative language there too. So I'm not sure that I really trust whatever this is just because of the connotative language, right? So there's a red flag there, and I should be, if I watch that, I should be watching to make sure that there's no more bias in there, right? All right, so we're noticing some connotative language here. Continuing.
But Michelle, Nathan, and Isaac aren't ordinary people because ordinary people haven't been arrested and hauled off to jail. Michelle, Nathan, and Isaac have. By whom? By Kellogg Community College, a small school in Battle Creek, Michigan. For what? Well, like many in the clink, their alleged crime involved distribution. Not of drugs, but of little pocket-sized copies of the U.S. Constitution.
So they are doing, with the words they're choosing and the tone of voice they're using, they're letting you know that these guys are perfect and wonderful and the college is bad, right? So it's ready to get everybody all fired up. Like they were just giving people the Constitution and they got put in jail. Well, Usually there's more to
That's
the
right.
story, right?
Michelle, Nathan, and Isaac's life of crime began, like most do, because they love 18th century American history. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. To help other young Americans learn about this history, Michelle decided to start a Young Americans for Liberty Club at Kellogg to educate students about the Constitution. To let people know about this new club, Michelle and her friends stood on a large public walkway at Kellogg, a public college, and handed out their copies of the Constitution,
So
a
we're
public
seeing
document.
this, right?
Some
There's a lot of
students accepted
connotative
the free
meaning here.
constitutions, others ignored them and kept walking. After a while, a friendly campus administrator walked by. His name was Drew Hutchinson, the manager of student life. Mr. Hutchinson informed Michelle, Nathan, and Isaac that they had to stop what they were doing right away. Why? The students asked. They were.
Okay. So this gets people fired up. In fact, there's over 1 million views of this. Gets people fired up. Now, my spidey sense says, I wonder if there's more to this story. Because, wow, it's making those kids seem like they are perfect, and the college seem like it is pretty evil. And usually the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? So it was published by a place called Alliance Defending Freedom. So when I went there, now I try usually to not go to the place's website because they're going to say they're perfect, right? But I went to Southern Poverty Law Center. And they're pretty reliable. Like, they really have got, some good information. And they're saying that these guys are like on their watch list as a hate group. So then that's sort of a red flag, like, And this group, I haven't read it like completely, right? But this group is part of a group that wants to make being gay illegal. So then I was like, okay, that's sort of a red flag to say maybe their story's not right. So then I looked at Wikipedia. Now, when I read the Wikipedia article, this place looks like the most wonderful place there ever was. Like, everything looks really, really, really good. Like, everything is wonderful and it's great. Except for then it says here, this article relies too much on primary sources, meaning the Alliance for Defending Freedom is the one who wrote it. So then that makes you go, I wonder if this is really right. A little bit of a red flag there too, right? So then I was like, all right, so this Young Americans for Liberty, they're the people, right? And I couldn't really find, they have Wikipedia, but then most of it was just their social media. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a chance. And I'm going to go to the Young Americans for Liberty website. And again, this could be like the most perfect place in the world, but there's some red flags on their website. And it might just be an unfortunate thing. But on their website, they have it's all about joining and giving them money. Starting a chapter, join our cause. You can't really get information really, except for join. Here's all the people. Here's all the stuff you can donate to. Now, look at it. Knew that I was about to leave because I was going up to exit out, and look at it says, wait, don't leave just yet. Aren't you sure you don't want to? Okay, for me, this website seems like a red flag. Now, it might just be an unfortunate choice of websites, and maybe they're actually a really good place. However, their website gives me a little bit of pause. Like, I'm worried about that. So then what I did was I was like, all right, let's find out the real story of what happened. So it was in Battle Creek, Michigan, Kellogg Community College. So I just typed in free speech, Kellogg Community College. Well, okay, so they paid $55,000 to settle the lawsuit. So I was like, well, maybe Kellogg College is really, to blame here. And then Kellogg College is like, yeah, we just paid it to make it stop. The insurance company paid it off. And then you go through and you start reading the stuff. And it's not like the facts of the case are not what were in the video. There were only 2 people who were arrested. not 3, and neither of them were students at the school. And when the guy came to talk to him, he just said, hey, let's go fill out the paperwork so that you can do this. And they refused to go fill out the paperwork. And then they became like a little persnickety, and the campus police had to escort them away. So it was it's a little bit like this video was a little misleading. It didn't actually tell the real truth of what was going on. So that makes me think that this video probably shouldn't be a source that I use because there are too many things that are red flags. Does that mean that this is absolutely not the truth? No. It just means there's too many things going on in that video that make me wonder, that give me pause. So I wouldn't use that video in my documentary because there's just too many red flags there. What you're going to do today is you're going to practice this. You are going to pick one of your sources that seemed like it had a lot of bias in it. And some of you might be going to do the same process that Mr. Hepp and I did. And then we went through it and went, oh yeah, okay, this checks out. And we put it up there. Okay. So you're going to go through this same process, like who published it, who wrote it, research all of those things and figure out, can I trust it or not? Pick one of those sources that maybe you thought, this seems a little off. Like something's not quite right. It just seems a little off. Maybe there was a lot of connotative language and you're like, this is maybe a little too much bias. And maybe I got to think about, is this right or not? So I want you to research one of your sources to see if you can trust it. And then just continue to research. Now, on Monday, we start writing our scripts for our documentaries. So you need to make sure you have notes from at least 5 sources, but you might need a little bit more just to make sure that you've got enough to really make a good documentary. Okay? So I will see you next week, Monday. I hope that you enjoyed this. This is a tough topic, so if you want to pop in and talk with me for a little bit extra help, come in at 10:30 during the extra work time, and you can get a little bit of help. Okay? Thank you.